Hey, Hot Springs Wesleyan Church. I hope you are having an amazing day today. I just want to touch base with you and see how things were going for you guys, and do a bit of a follow up from Sunday. So on Sunday, I understand it was a bit different, a little bit strange, and a different way of having church than we normally do. We didn't have in person gathering, but instead we had church online, and some of you were in the comfort of your home. Probably a few of you may have been even in your pajamas. Some of you I know were on the road and traveling during that time, and you were still able to watch and participate in a church service. And so I know that there were several of you that were just extremely encouraged by that, and we got a lot of positive responses from it. And so for that, I think it was an amazing service, if I do say so myself. But just the entire aspect of it, thought it went really, really well, considering that we were not having in-person gathering. But I want to do a bit of follow-up with the message that I gave. And so we talked about some things that are going on right now. With the virus, the chaos and everything that's happening, and the uncertainty that is around us. And we walked through a bit of Elijah's story, where he is facing some chaos and some uncertainty in his life. He's being chased and hunted by some people, and he's kind of seemed to be running from some of his problems a little bit. And he kind of has that conversation with God where he's like, I'm just done, And he ends up going to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, and God passes by outside of the cave, and so he tells Elijah to go outside, that he's going to pass by, and he wants him to experience him. And so Elijah experiences this tremendous wind that is breaking rocks, this huge earthquake, and this all-consuming fire. These three different instances, these three different physical happenings, and in them he is trying to find God. And at the end of each one of those, he finds out that God was not in them. The God was not in the wind. He wasn't in the earthquake, and he wasn't in the fire. And after those, there was this stillness that happened. And in that stillness, there was a small voice. And that was the voice of God calling out to Elijah. And I talked about how in chaos we find destruction, but in stillness we hear the voice of God. And so I encouraged you this week that in the midst of everything going on, in the midst of the uncertainty that is happening and some of the chaos that is ensuing, whether it be in the world or even in your own life. I know some of you parents are probably pulling out your hair right now, wishing that school was back on. But things are interrupted, and so our life seems to be filled with this uncertainty and this bit of chaos. And so I encouraged you to take time this week to find the stillness, and I hope you did. Whether it was shopping at Sam's Club, you decided to stop as people were grabbing things and doing their shopping, and there was craziness happening. That in the middle of that, maybe you stopped and you paused, and instead of focusing on the chaos that was happening, you took a deep breath and you stopped, and you instead decided to focus on the blessings that God was giving you in that moment, or what He had given you that day. Or perhaps you were outside and you were doing something. Perhaps you were just enjoying the amazing weather that we were having, and you were just out enjoying it, and you decided to stop and focus on hearing God's voice in that moment. Whatever the case may be, I hope you took the opportunity to try and find the stillness this week in your life. And if you did, and you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, and you're able to comment below just a moment where you found some stillness. I think it would be a cool way to kind of interact and hear some stories from this week. But I kind of wanted to talk just for a minute, or really just do a follow-up from that. In verse 13 of 1 Kings 19, we read this: When Elijah heard the voice, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And so I want to kind of ask you guys the same thing. what are you doing here in the midst of everything that is going on? I often talk about how we as followers of Christ are called to fulfill a mission that God has set out for every single follower, every single Christian. And that is to share the gospel and to make disciples. That we are to go out into this world, and we are to share His gospel, to share His love and His light, and make disciples. And within that, though, each one of us has a specific function, a specific calling within that to help fulfill that overarching mission. And right now, if you're like me, you're trying to figure out, with everything going on, how to do that. Maybe you're still seeking out what that individual function is, and I encourage you, keep praying, keep seeking after God, keep going and learning what that specific function is, but keep pursuing that overarching mission to make disciples, to share the gospel, and to share the love of Christ. But if you do know what it is, if you're kind of like me, and I'm a pastor, I know that that's my calling, that is my purpose, my individual purpose within that overarching calling. And if you're like me, you're kind of like, things have changed. I myself, I've had to change some stuff up. I've had to figure out how to navigate, how to minister during this time, because I love face-to-face. I love one-on-ones. I love going out and meeting and doing things with people. And that's how I connect, and that's how I reach people and I disciple people. And right now I'm limited in doing that because of everything that's going on. So I'm having to change things up. I'm doing a lot more phone calls, a lot more emails. I'm doing stuff like this. But that question still remains: what are you doing here in the midst of all of this? What are you doing here to share the gospel with people? What are you doing here to show the lost the light and the love of Christ? What are you doing here in the midst of everything to disciple someone? And I know that things are different, but I want you to be seeking out what it is you're supposed to be doing in the midst of all of this. Is it making a phone call because you can't get out, or the person that you're trying to minister to, they're limited in being able to come outside? Maybe it's a phone call. It doesn't have to be a deep, powerful, meaningful, intentful phone conversation, but a simple check-in of how somebody is doing. A conversation of just allowing them to have that human interaction. Maybe it's reaching out to your neighbors and seeing what is it they need at the grocery store. As you're going out and you're going to go get stuff for your family, maybe reaching out to your neighbors, to those that you're trying to reach, and say, hey, is there anything that you need? I'm going to the store. And in doing so, you're being their neighbor. You're being a loving neighbor. And with that, you add on, hey, I just want you to know that God loves you, and so do I. But the question is, during this time, what are you doing to share the love and the light of Christ to those who need it? And like I said, I'm still figuring some of that out in the midst of all of this change. But I encourage you, because we are called to do that. That is our mission, our overarching purpose as followers of Christ, is to go out and share the gospel and make disciples. That is what we are called to do. And so how are you doing that in the midst of everything that is going on? And if you're doing that, again, comment below, send a message. I want to hear those stories, because I'm not able to meet face-to-face with people as much, and I love hearing those stories. And so comment them, email them, text me, call me. I want to hear those stories that are happening and ways that you are reaching people, because it's going to be a huge encouragement to everyone to hear those stories during this time. And so know that during this time, I am praying for you. I am still your pastor. I'm still here for you. Like I said, a lot of my stuff is limited in how I'm doing things now, but I'm making phone calls, I'm sending emails, and if you're feeling comfortable to have a face-to-face, let me know. I would love to meet with you, love to talk with you, and especially if you're going through something and you're needing to talk to somebody, give me a call, please. I am still here. I am still your pastor, and I'm still here to love on you, to counsel you, to lead you. So If I haven't reached out to you yet and you're wanting to talk to me, give me a call, give me a text, send me an email, all right? But know that I'm praying for all of you during this time. I know for some of you this is more difficult than others, but know that I'm praying for you, that I love you, and more importantly, that God loves you. And as we talked about this past weekend, God is in control. Seek out that stillness and know that He is God. Know that He is in control. All right? Hot Springs Wesleyan Church, I love you guys so much. I can't wait for the time when we're able to meet again in person. And I will be updating you guys on those details as the week progresses. But have a wonderful day and stay healthy.